November 2022. A college student opens his phone and sees something terrifying. His money is gone. Not lost in a bad investment. Not spent. Just inaccessible. Thousands of miles away, a father saving for his daughter's future sees the same thing. Then a small business owner. Then a crypto trader. Then millions more. Panic spreads across the internet faster than any virus. People rush to withdraw their money, but it's already too late. One of the largest financial companies in the world is collapsing in real time. Just a few days earlier, this company was worth $32 billion. Celebrities promoted it. Billionaire investors trusted it. Politicians praised its founder. Many believed it was the future of finance. Yet within a week, the empire would disappear. Billions of dollars would vanish, and the man at the center of it all would go from billionaire genius to federal prisoner. His name was Sam Bankman-Fried. At just 30 years old, he had built one of the fastest growing companies in financial history. Newspapers called him a visionary. Investors called him a genius. Some people even called him the next Warren Buffett. But years later, prosecutors would describe him very differently. They would accuse him of orchestrating one of the largest financial frauds in modern American history. And here's what makes this story so fascinating. Sam didn't look like a billionaire. He rarely wore expensive suits. His hair often looked messy. He appeared in interviews wearing t-shirts and cargo shorts. While other executives carefully managed their image, Sam looked like a college student who accidentally became rich. People trusted him because he seemed different, more honest, more authentic. But that's exactly what makes this story dangerous. Because history has shown something again and again. The people who fool the world rarely look like villains at the beginning. They look like heroes, visionaries, innovators, people everyone wants to believe in. And by the time the truth appears, billions of dollars may already be gone. So how did a young man become worth billions before turning 30? How did he convince some of the smartest investors in the world to trust him? And how did a company worth $32 billion collapse in just a few days? To answer those questions, we need to go back long before FTX existed, back before the fame, back before the billions, back to a young math student who believed he had found a shortcut to wealth. Sam Bankman-Fried grew up in California in a family filled with academics. Both of his parents were law professors. Education wasn't just encouraged, it was expected. From a young age, Sam showed unusual talent in mathematics and analytical thinking. While other kids focused on sports or video games, Sam became fascinated by numbers, probability, and logic. Eventually, he attended MIT, one of the most prestigious universities in the world. And this is where the story takes its first important turn. At MIT, Sam became interested in a philosophy called effective altruism. The idea sounded simple. Earn as much money as possible, then use that money to help as many people as possible. To many people, it sounded noble. Imagine hearing a future billionaire say, "I don't want money for myself. I want money so I can save the world." Most people would instantly trust that person more. And that's exactly what happened. Years later, this philosophy would become a major part of Sam's public image. After graduating, Sam joined a quantitative trading firm called Jane Street. This wasn't an ordinary Wall Street job. Jane Street was known for hiring some of the smartest mathematical minds in finance. There, Sam learned how markets worked, how traders made money, and most importantly, how tiny differences in prices could create enormous opportunities. Then he noticed something strange in cryptocurrency markets. Bitcoin wasn't always priced the same everywhere. In some countries, prices could be dramatically higher than in others. Most people ignored this. Sam saw opportunity: buy in one market, sell in another, repeat the process again and again. It sounded simple, but the profits could be enormous. In 2017, he launched Alameda Research, a cryptocurrency trading firm built around exploiting these opportunities. Almost immediately, the company started making serious money. While most people were still trying to understand what cryptocurrency even was, Alameda was becoming one of the biggest trading firms in the industry. And this is where the first warning sign appeared. Success came incredibly fast, too fast. In business, rapid growth often creates a dangerous illusion. When money keeps pouring in, people stop asking difficult questions. Investors become excited. Journalists write positive stories. Everyone focuses on the results instead of the risks. Within a few years, Sam wasn't just another crypto trader. He was becoming one of the most respected names in the industry. Reporters wanted interviews. Investors wanted meetings. Conferences wanted him on stage. Everywhere he went, the same story followed him. Young genius, mathematical prodigy, future billionaire. But Sam wasn't satisfied with running a trading firm. He wanted something much bigger. He wanted to build the platform where millions of people traded cryptocurrency, a platform that could become the center of the entire crypto industry. And in 2019, he launched the company that would eventually make him famous around the world, a company called FTX. When FTX launched in 2019, it wasn't the biggest crypto exchange. It wasn't even close. Giants like Binance already dominated the market. Most startups would have spent years trying to catch up. But Sam Bankman-Fried had a different plan. He understood something powerful. In finance, people don't always buy the best product. They buy the product they trust. And Sam was about to become one of the most trusted people in crypto. The timing couldn't have been better. Around the world, interest in cryptocurrency was exploding. Bitcoin prices surged. New investors entered the market every day. People who had never invested before suddenly wanted crypto accounts. Venture capital firms were desperate to find the next big winner. Money flowed into the industry at a historic pace. FTX grew incredibly fast. Traders liked its advanced features. Investors loved its growth numbers. Every few months, the company seemed bigger than before. Revenue increased. Customer numbers increased. Valuations increased. The story was becoming impossible to ignore. And the faster the company grew, the stronger Sam's reputation became. Then came a brilliant marketing strategy. Instead of advertising only to crypto enthusiasts, FTX targeted ordinary people. The company wanted to look mainstream, safe, reliable, like the future of finance. To achieve that goal, Sam started spending enormous amounts of money on branding and sponsorships. Soon, some of the biggest names in sports and entertainment were connected to FTX. NFL legend Tom Brady became an ambassador. Supermodel Gisele Bündchen partnered with the company. NBA superstar Stephen Curry appeared in advertisements. Millions of people who knew almost nothing about cryptocurrency suddenly saw trusted celebrities promoting FTX. Think about the psychology for a moment. Most people don't analyze financial statements. They don't study balance sheets. Instead, they use shortcuts. If famous investors trust a company, it feels safer. If celebrities endorse a company, it feels safer. If everyone seems excited, it feels safer. That's exactly why these partnerships were so powerful. The sponsorships became even bigger. FTX purchased naming rights to the Miami Heat Arena in a deal reportedly worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Suddenly, one of America's most recognizable sports venues carried the FTX name. For many people, this was proof that the company had truly arrived. Meanwhile, investors couldn't get enough. Some of the most respected venture capital firms in the world poured money into FTX. They weren't investing millions. They were investing hundreds of millions. Every funding round pushed the company's valuation higher. Every valuation made Sam look smarter. And every success attracted even more investors. By early 2022, FTX reached a valuation of roughly $32 billion. Let that number sink in. A company founded only a few years earlier was suddenly worth more than many financial institutions that had existed for decades. Sam Bankman-Fried's personal fortune soared into the billions. At one point, estimates placed his wealth around $16 billion. To the outside world, everything looked perfect. Sam appeared before lawmakers. Journalists praised him. Investors admired him. Some people genuinely believed he would become one of the most important figures in modern finance. But behind the scenes, a completely different story was unfolding. Remember Alameda Research? The trading company Sam had founded before FTX? Most customers assumed Alameda and FTX operated separately. One was an exchange, the other was a trading firm. On paper, that sounded reasonable, but investigators would later argue that the relationship between the two companies was far closer than customers realized. And there was another important piece of the puzzle. FTX had created its own cryptocurrency token called FTT. At first glance, this seemed normal. Many crypto companies launched their own tokens. Investors bought FTT. Traders used it. The market gave it value. But hidden inside that success was a dangerous vulnerability. Imagine creating your own currency, then using that currency to help support the value of your business. Everything works as long as people believe the currency is valuable. But what happens if confidence disappears? What happens if investors suddenly stop believing? That's the question almost nobody was asking while FTX was growing. The reason was simple. Success hides problems. When markets rise, people focus on profits. When valuations explode, skepticism becomes unpopular. Investors feared missing out more than they feared being wrong. The entire crypto industry was celebrating growth, and FTX looked like one of its greatest success stories. But in November 2022, a single leaked document would change everything. One report would expose weaknesses that had been hidden beneath the surface for years. Within days, the $32 billion empire would begin collapsing, and the man once called crypto's golden boy would find himself fighting for survival. For years, Sam Bankman-Fried had controlled the narrative. Investors saw a genius. Customers saw a trusted exchange. Celebrities saw a brand worth promoting. Journalists saw the future of finance. But every empire has a weak point. Sometimes it's hidden for years. Sometimes it's hidden in plain sight. And in November 2022, someone finally found FTX's weak point. On November 2nd, a report published by CoinDesk revealed details from Alameda Research's balance sheet. At first glance, it looked like just another financial document, but analysts quickly noticed something alarming. A large portion of Alameda's reported assets appeared tied to FT, the token created by FTX itself. Suddenly, people started asking questions nobody had asked before. Think of it like this. Imagine someone tells you they're worth $1 billion. Then you discover much of that wealth comes from an asset they created themselves. The obvious question becomes, is that wealth truly real? Or does it depend entirely on people continuing to believe it's valuable? That's the exact concern spreading through the crypto industry. At first, many people ignored the report. Crypto markets had survived scandals before, but the problem wasn't just FTT. The problem was what the document seemed to suggest about the relationship between Alameda and FTX. If Alameda depended heavily on FTT and FTT depended heavily on confidence in FTX, then the entire system could be far more fragile than investors realized. Then one tweet changed everything. Changpeng Zhao, better known as CZ, the CEO of Binance, announced that Binance would sell its remaining FTT holdings. This wasn't just another investor. Binance was the largest crypto exchange in the world. When CZ spoke, markets listened, and what they heard terrified them. Immediately, traders began selling FTT. Prices started falling. Social media exploded with speculation. Crypto influencers debated whether FTX was in danger. Investors demanded answers. Customers became nervous. For the first time, fear was spreading faster than confidence. Sam Bankman-Fried tried to calm the situation. He publicly insisted that FTX was fine. He reassured users that assets were safe. He projected confidence, but confidence is fragile. Once people start doubting a financial institution, every reassurance can sound like a warning instead. Then the withdrawals started. Thousands of customers rushed to remove their money from FTX. Then hundreds of thousands, then millions. Billions of dollars began leaving the platform in what would become one of the largest digital bank runs in history. Everyone wanted to get out before everyone else. This is where the crisis became fatal. A healthy financial platform should be able to meet withdrawal requests, but according to later court proceedings, FTX faced a massive shortfall. The money customers expected to withdraw wasn't fully available, and once customers realized that, panic became unstoppable. Imagine standing in a crowded theater when someone smells smoke. It doesn't matter whether there's actually a fire. The moment people believe there might be one, everyone runs for the exits. That's what happened to FTX. Fear became the crisis. Behind closed doors, executives were scrambling for solutions. The company needed billions of dollars. Not next month, not next week, immediately. Every hour made the situation worse. Every withdrawal increased the pressure. Every headline scared more customers. Then came what looked like a miracle. Binance announced a non-binding agreement to potentially acquire FTX. Markets briefly calmed down. Employees felt hope. Customers thought their money might be saved. For a few hours, it seemed like the biggest player in crypto would rescue the industry's biggest crisis. But after reviewing FTX's finances, Binance walked away. The company announced it would not proceed with the acquisition. That decision sent shockwaves through the financial world. If Binance didn't want to touch FTX after seeing the numbers, investors assumed the situation was even worse than rumors suggested. The collapse accelerated instantly. Customers couldn't access funds. Investors fled. Confidence vanished. And on November 11, 2022, FTX, Alameda Research, and more than 100 related entities filed for bankruptcy. In less than 2 weeks, one of the most valuable companies in crypto had been wiped out. But the bankruptcy was only the beginning, because once investigators entered the company, they discovered something far more shocking than a failed business. They discovered evidence that would eventually send Sam Bankman-Fried to prison. And the deeper investigators looked, the worse the story became. When FTX filed for bankruptcy, many people assumed the story was over. Billionaire loses company. Investors lose money. End of story. But investigators were only beginning to uncover what had happened behind the scenes. And what they found would transform a business failure into one of the biggest fraud cases in modern financial history. The first shocking discovery involved customer money. Millions of users believed their assets were safely stored on FTX. But prosecutors later argued that billions of dollars in customer funds had been diverted to Alameda Research. According to the government, that money was used for investments, loans, political donations, venture deals, and other expenses. Suddenly, this wasn't just about a failed company. It was about trust. Imagine depositing money into a bank because you believe it's secure. Then years later, discovering that the money had secretly been used somewhere else. That's why the collapse felt so personal to many customers. They weren't simply losing investments. They were losing money they believed was being protected. Then investigators gained help from the people closest to Sam Bankman-Fried. One by one, former executives started cooperating with authorities. And perhaps the most important witness was Caroline Ellison, the former CEO of Alameda Research. She wasn't an outsider guessing what happened. She had been part of the inner circle. During the trial, Ellison testified that Alameda received special privileges unavailable to ordinary customers. She also testified that customer funds were used to support Alameda's activities. Her testimony became one of the most damaging pieces of evidence presented against Sam. Suddenly, the government's case wasn't coming from competitors or critics. It was coming from former insiders. And Caroline wasn't alone. Other former executives, including Gary Wang and Nishad Singh, also cooperated with prosecutors. The people who had helped build the empire were now helping explain how it collapsed. Every new witness made the situation more difficult for Sam's defense team. Meanwhile, Sam continued insisting that he hadn't intended to commit fraud. He argued that mistakes had been made and that the company had grown too quickly. Supporters saw a founder overwhelmed by a rapidly expanding business. Critics saw something completely different. They saw a carefully hidden system that only worked as long as nobody looked too closely. Then came the trial in New York. For weeks, jurors listened to testimony from insiders, investors, and experts. Millions of people followed the case. The same man who once appeared on magazine covers as crypto's brightest star was now sitting in a courtroom fighting to avoid prison. As evidence accumulated, the image of the untouchable genius began collapsing for the second time. The first collapse destroyed FTX. The second collapse destroyed Sam's reputation. Every day of testimony pushed the public further away from the story they had believed for years. In November 2023, the verdict arrived. Sam Bankman-Fried was found guilty on multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy. The man once worth billions was now a convicted felon. The rise that had taken years to build had ended in a courtroom. But one final question remained. How much prison time would he receive? Some people expected a sentence measured in decades. Others believed it would be shorter. Whatever happened, everyone knew the decision would become another major headline around the world. On March 28, 2024, the answer arrived. A federal judge sentenced Sam Bankman-Fried to 25 years in prison and ordered forfeiture of more than $11 billion. The judge concluded that he had orchestrated multiple fraudulent schemes involving customer funds. It was one of the most dramatic falls from power in modern business history. But the most interesting part of the FTX story isn't the prison sentence. It isn't even the missing billions. The most interesting part is how many intelligent people believed the story. Venture capital firms invested hundreds of millions. Celebrities promoted the company. Journalists praised the founder. Millions of customers trusted the platform. That's because FTX wasn't built only on technology. It was built on belief. People believed Sam was a genius. People believed he was different. People believed he was too smart to fail. And once enough people believe a story, questioning it becomes difficult, sometimes even dangerous. In the end, FTX wasn't destroyed by cryptocurrency. It wasn't destroyed by bad luck. It was destroyed when reality finally caught up with the story. And maybe that's the real lesson. The next time the world celebrates a financial genius, a revolutionary company, or a billionaire promising to change the future, will people ask the hard questions, or will they believe the story all over again?